afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our NCO webinar. It's 4:30 on Friday, and I'm super delighted to be back with you because today we've got three incredible musicians joining us from the National Youth Orchestra of Great Britain. And they are Christie. Hi, Christie.
Hello.
And Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
And Kynan. Hi, Kynan.
Hello.
Great. So those guys are going to be introducing themselves in a little bit. Now, in order for you to get really active in this webinar, we want you to join in as much as possible. So at the bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A button. You can just tap on that and type us your questions, and I will ask as many of them as possible, and these guys will answer them. And there's also some polling there's going to be things to vote on that are going to be popping up as we go through. So we're going to find out some secrets about these amazing musicians. So without further ado, could you introduce yourself, guys? Let's kick off with Kynan.
So hi, I'm Kynan and I play violin in the orchestra. And I started playing the violin when I was 6. I watched an orchestra and I was really enthralled by the sound of the violin, and I kind of loved how much of the tune they also got as well. So yeah, that's kind of my main inspiration. That was my main inspiration for starting.
And this is a little picture of you that we're sharing now. Can you all see that? That's feasibly cute. Kynan, tell us about when that was and what you were doing.
So that was with my very first violin teacher, who I was actually learning with for about 9 years. And what she always used to do about 3 times a year were these concerts in schools where all her students got together and we kind of played arrangements of these kind of well-known pieces. And so that was me, obviously a lot younger, taking part in that.
And where did you grow up, Kynan?
So I grew up in a town near Birmingham, Sutton Coldfield. Yeah.
Great, fantastic. Right, let's move on now to Christie. Here's Christie as a little Christie. This is a photo actually from NCO, because you were in NCO, weren't you, Christie?
Yes, I think that photo's from under 12s in one of the concert halls we were playing in rehearsal beforehand. But yeah, so I'm Christie. I play trumpet, as you can see. Before I first started playing, I actually wanted to play the violin because that was what my sister had just started playing. And I was at a stage in my life where I wanted to do everything that my sister did, including naming my teddies after her, which caused all sorts of confusion. And so yeah, but then so I was like, oh mum, can I play the violin? But luckily she saw that wasn't a good idea. I think she didn't like the idea of having kind of the competition between us. So she took me, because I live in Huddersfield, well, a little village called Marsden, and it's quite a strong brass band heritage around here. So just down my road, there's a band room. So she took me to the Marsden Silver Prize band room and to their junior band, and they gave me a cornet. They kind of, first rehearsal taught me the C major scale, and then I just kind of went from there. So I first started on the cornet. I think I played there for about a year, and then I started getting music lessons from my local music service. And then for some reason, about maybe a year in, I was like to my mum, I really want to play the trumpet. The trumpet's so cool, so much cooler than the cornet. So I think for my birthday, I got a trumpet. And then I tried to take my trumpet to the brass band, and I didn't realise that there is, you can't play trumpets in brass bands, you're only allowed to play cornets. So they told me that, and I quit the band and pursued my career as a trumpet player, and only rejoined the brass band 2 years ago now. I had about 8 years off maybe, off the brass band, and I rejoined 2 years ago and played with the band for 2 years, and I've just left last year.
Great, fantastic, brilliant. And there's a little picture of you. Actually, some of you might recognize it. I think that's Port Regis, the lake in Port Regis, on one of your courses at NCO. And so let's move on to Emily. This is Emily from one of her NCO days. Tell us about you, Emily.
I'm Emily. I play the trombone. I've been playing the trombone for coming up to 6 years now. And I was in NCO for 4 of them. I think that's me in either under 13s or main, but I'm trying to tell by the hoodie I was wearing, so I'm pretty sure that's under 13s. Oh, there's more. I didn't realise there was going to be more. Yeah, so that was me outside of concert hall, and me when I was about 9, and I literally just started learning the trombone and was doing a concert for someone. But yeah, I originally wanted to learn basically every instrument under the sun. I went through a massive phase of just, I want to play the violin, I want to play the flute, I want to play the timpanis, I basically just went through everything. Because I did a thing at Hertford, because I live in Watford, so we have Hertfordshire Music Service. So I went and did a day at Hertfordshire Music Service where I basically got to try out all the different instruments. So that's sort of I was like, oh, there's so much choice, I don't know what to do. I ended up really wanting to learn the trumpet, actually, and I was going to learn the trumpet. That's what I was going to do. I had my heart set on that, and that was what was going to happen. But when it came to me actually trying to learn, I didn't have any front teeth at the time, so I couldn't do it. So my teacher said to me, okay, why don't we try the E-flat horn, which is something you play in like brass bands and stuff. So on my first lesson, he sort of, we played a couple of notes on the E-flat horn, and then he handed me a trombone and said, try this instead, and the rest is history. I've been playing the trombone ever since.
Fantastic. And here's pictures of you, all you guys in NYO. There's Kynan. He's been very modest because he hasn't told you he's actually the leader of the National Youth Orchestra and has been for the last couple of years. We've had a question actually from Ben Clark, which we could answer as we go through these pictures. How many years have you each been in NYO? Kynan, how long have you been in NYO?
So I've been in NYO for the past 3 years now. Yeah.
So you were 1 year, and then you've had 2 years as leader, haven't you? You're in your second year.
Yeah, so I joined in 2018, and then 2019 and 2020, I was leader for those 2 years.
Great, fantastic. And there's Emily, and there's Christie. So how long, Christie, have you been in NYO?
This is my second year in NYO, 2 years.
And Emily?
This is my first year in NYO.
Great, so we've got a 3, a 2 and a 1. Perfectly balanced, brilliant. So that's them in action in NYO, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. So what is the best thing about being in NYO? Let's give that to you, Kynan.
So I think I would say 2 things. I don't know which to put in front of one. I think first, the musical aspect. It's such a big orchestra with 164 players. So when you have these kind of dramatic bits in music, or extremely quiet and really sincere musical moments, it feels so heartfelt, because it's kind of 164 people kind of pushing for that, if you know what I mean. And it's just such a great feeling to be in that. So that's one thing that is really great. Another thing is also the social aspect. It's such a community, and kind of everyone I think feels like they can contribute their own ideas and stuff. So I think the performances we give are very unique, and I think we all support each other to do that in a very friendly way as much as it is musical.
Brilliant, great. Right, one for you, Christie. We've got a question from Kynan Walker. What's your favourite piece of music to play in the orchestra? Do you have a favourite piece?
Wow, that's a very tricky question. I'm not sure about a piece, but I do love playing Shostakovich. Just like the brass writing is amazing. On winter course, we played Shostakovich's 11th Symphony, which isn't done so much. So I didn't really know it before, but it's absolutely incredible. Probably one of my favorites of his. I love the 7th, the Leningrad, which is absolutely beautiful. I've never had the opportunity to play it, but that's a dream of mine. You know, it's got a double brass section, just be, yeah, huge.
Amazing, great, fantastic. So what's Emily, you've moved obviously we've got a poll. Got interrupted there by a poll. Our first poll is about Kynan. It says that it says that he can never resist a snack. Which snack is it that he can't resist? Cupcakes, flapjack, corn on the cob, potato waffles, or pepperoni pizza? We'll find out in a minute what is the snack that he can't resist. Okay, Emily, you moved from NCO to NYO. Could you sum up for us the difference between the two orchestras?
I think the biggest difference, I'd say, is the fact that obviously NCO is split up into the different age groups. So you've got like the under 11s, main, and everybody sort of split up into their different age groups, and the standard is sort of based on the age group that you're in. But with NYO, obviously it's from 13 to 18 and everyone's sort of in it together, which I think is probably the biggest difference. I think that's a really good thing actually as well, because in a way you sort of get to like learn from everybody's different experience levels. Because, for example, I'm not the oldest, I'm not the youngest, so I'm learning from people around me all the time, which I think is really nice. And I sort of get that opportunity to learn from people that are in a much better place than me, and I get to help people that aren't necessarily in like as good a place, I guess. Especially with the Inspire activities that we do, you sort of get to pass what you know, your experience onto these people, and hopefully really help them grow and feel more confident as musicians, which I really love.
Have you ever met any NCO kids on NYO Inspire?
I have. I've met some old friends from NCO actually a few times on Inspire. I think the last Inspire course I went on before Corona happened was the February ensemble, Inspire Ensembles course, where we had the brass ensemble, and Ishan Shah, who was in main orchestra with me, he was there, and it was really nice to see him again. And 4 NCO trombonists currently in NYO, so it's like sort of the NCO gang all back together again, which is really nice.
Fantastic. So it looks like we've got an answer to our poll, Kynan, and 34% of you think you can't resist a flapjack, 26 a potato waffle, 24 pepperoni pizza, only 9% corn on the cob, and only 7% cupcakes. So what, drum roll, what is the answer? What can't you resist?
Yeah, it's the flapjack.
How did you guess?
That. I just think it's you can either have it really gingery, which is nice, and you can also kind of throw in fruits and stuff. It's like a all-in-one. Yeah. Great,
brilliant. There's our first secret about Kynan. Great. Okay, one for you, Christie. Rebecca O'Shea. Oh no, sorry. Sasha Watson wants to know: have you had any embarrassing moments playing in NYO?
So I do. Unfortunately, on a concert, Kynan will probably know. It was my first course last winter, and we'd done 3 concerts, and it was the last concert in Nottingham Town Hall, and I had a little. It was in the John Adams Dr. Atomic Symphony, and I had a little solo on the E-flat trumpet, and it was quite, it kind of stuck out a lot, and it was also cued in all the strings parts as well. And
you're getting embarrassed now talking about it, aren't you?
Yeah. On the final concert in Nottingham, I came in 2 bars early on it, and I just came in, absolutely, and because the other 2 concerts, like, I'd kind of played it all right, and then on this last one, I kind of just really went for it, and I came in and I was like, oh yeah, this feels great, and I was just like, it was all going great, and I kind of looked up at the conductor and I was like, oh, and just the shock in his eyes, and he was just like trying to sort everything out because all the strings were just in chaos. And yeah, I wasn't popular in the dressing room after. I walked in and there was violinist saying, "Oh, who was that playing the trumpet who came in early?" They're like, "Oh, I had him queued in."
Do you remember that, Kynan?
I didn't even know that was. I didn't even, because when that happened, I thought that was kind of my counting, and because I was about to come in, and then I just suddenly had this like conductor's hand kind of a wave in my face to say, you know, don't come in, and I just thought I'd almost like brought my whole section in wrong. That's actually so funny. I didn't realise.
Sorry about that.
There's a confession there on national release that it was Christie.
Luckily, it wasn't the one that was recorded for radio.
Okay, good. So that was, yeah, a dummy run. Right, we've got a question from Rebecca O'Shea now. Perhaps for you, Emily, how do you balance your schoolwork and all your music?
So currently, I don't have any schoolwork to do because I'm in year 11, so I would have been having exams this year. And now I've got literally nothing to do. So I'm spending most of my days practicing and doing music and stuff, just so I don't lose my mind. But before that, I would usually it's just planning your time, really. It's just making sure that you set enough time aside to do all the work you have to do, and then making sure that you just give that little bit of extra time to your practice as well. So usually I'd come home straight away and just get on with my practice first and just spend my time on that first, and then spend the rest of the evening doing my schoolwork and stuff, just because in a way you've been working all day at school, and music is sort of a nice way to just calm down, relax from that, just set aside your time, focus just on that for, I don't know, a couple of hours, and then come back, have something to eat, have a snack, check social media for a little bit, and then just get on and do your schoolwork for a little bit in the evening. And that was just sort of how I managed my time, just because it was a sort of a nice way of setting it out for me, because obviously you've been working hard all day and music is just a nice little escape from that.
Brilliant. Great. We've got a question from, and another poll. Okay, so Christie has released a single with his rock band. I bet you didn't know that. But where in the world has it got the most streams? Is it Huddersfield, UK? Is it Los Angeles? Is it Brighton, UK? Glasgow in Scotland, or Lagos in Nigeria? Okay, so we'll see where Christie is famous in just a minute. Okay, one for you, Kynan. Carlotta's asked, what's the audition process like at NYO?
If I have to describe it in one word, I would probably say the biggest thing is that it's, okay, actually, this isn't one word, but laid back. So what you do is you have excerpts that you have to prepare, and you also have 2 pieces to play, and you have a first round and a second round, actually. In most cases, I think some instruments like percussion, they don't have that, it's just 1 round, but in most cases, you have 2 rounds. And you start with your pieces, play your excerpts afterwards, and then you have an interview. And I think what's really great about the audition process in NYO is that in both the first and second rounds, they really value that interview time, because I think they really respect the fact that you're not going to perform your best when you're nervous. I don't think anyone does. So they value getting to know you as a person and actually finding out who this person is behind the playing, and what kind of relationship they think they have with their instrument. So I think it's really great in that way, and also because it is a group sort of thing where you also have a part in the audition where you play with the other people auditioning. You can learn from them, and you also have that sort of short space of time to get to know them as well. And it's just really great. And also, actually, one more thing about what they've started doing, I'm not sure about in other sections, but in the string sections anyway, is preparing multiple parts for one piece. So in the workshop, when you are playing together, it actually sounds like music. I think sometimes excerpts can sound really weird on their own because it's so out of context. So bringing the music to life in those sorts of nervous situations, it really takes away the nerves. Yeah, it's great.
Brilliant. So Christie, we've got an answer, and you're going to have to tell us whether it's true. Most people, 37%, think your rock band is streaming the most streams in Huddersfield. 20% Brighton, 17% Glasgow, 16% Lagos, and 10% Los Angeles. So Could you tell us what is the answer?
It is actually Los Angeles. We have no idea why. Second most listened is Huddersfield, which we were expecting, but because we got on within Spotify, we got on some playlist that's listened to loads in Los Angeles. So yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it? It's something you just created. Did you create it like at home or, you know, with your mates, and then it's...
Well, we actually recorded it last year in about September. We did most of it. We recorded in my friend, well, two of my friends in the band, they're brothers. They live in a church. Yeah, which is so cool. Their dad's an architect and he's renovated this church that they now live in. So most of it we recorded there. I recorded the trumpet in a studio in Huddersfield called Hooch or Hoot. Can't remember what the name of the studio is. And then we kind of all put it together. So yeah, it's been kind of a long process of releasing it. So yeah, really happy with it. And
Great.
you can all
What's
listen
it called? Should we listen to it? What's it called in case you want to find it?
The band is called £2, the band. The single we've just released is called Shower Beer, and the album will be releasing on the 8th of July.
Wow. It's going to go global. I can feel it. In fact, it already has. Great, congratulations. Right, got a question from Lana Jackson. Do you want to take this one, Kynan? What do you do when you're not playing your instruments? Do you have any hobbies?
So yes, I really like reading. That's something I like doing, and also cooking as well, actually. I haven't done it much recently, but I used to do it a lot when I was younger. Actually, this period now, this quarantine period, has been quite a nice time to revisit those, because I've kind of, you know, with schoolwork that was happening before all this, I didn't really have much time to do that. And I don't really know if this counts, because it's still kind of music, but actually just listening to music is something I love to do, because there's just so much out there, and you know, you can explore so much through just listening. And yeah, I kind of love to do that as well, just sitting there doing nothing and listening. Yeah.
What about you, Emily? Do you have any hobbies?
I like walking my dog. It's nice to get out in the fresh air.
Tell us about your dog. What kind of dog have you got?
I have a Yorkshire Terrier. She's called Luna, which is short for lunatic, because she's a little bit crazy. She sees people and she like goes absolutely mental. I think after lockdown she's going to be even worse, because she's only just seen us. Like, she's got this little spot in the garden where she sits on our wall so that she can see our neighbour, and she gets all really excited every time our neighbour comes out into the garden, and she gets really happy and she starts barking. So I think after lockdown's over, she's just going to go mental every time she sees anyone in the street. I like cooking and baking as well. I've been making loads and loads of cookies for my family, because I tried it one week and I made about 30 cookies, and my family just ate them in like 2 days. So since then, it's been like a weekly task for me to make cookies. And my mum goes, "When are you making cookies again, Emily? When are you making cookies?" And it's just a nice momentous occasion for my family. They just really love it.
So you've got brothers and sisters?
I do. I have a sister who is in NCO. She's in under 13s. She plays violin. Yeah, she's been in, this is her second year now in NCO, I think. So yeah, she's loving it. Yeah, she's really enjoying it.
Brilliant. Okay, we've got a poll about you, Emily. Which snack of an acquired taste does Emily love? Olives, gherkins, pickled onions, beetroot, or mustard? One of those is a favourite with Emily. Wonder what it is. We'll find out in a minute. Great. One for you, Christie. This is from Leah Wiseman. What inspired you to love music?
To love music? Oh, I'm not sure. I guess kind of my parents for kind of giving me the kind of just like taking me to learn instruments. My sister because because I kind of wanted to. But I guess in my love of music, a love of mine is jazz music. I'm joint first study jazz, and I guess that comes from friends. Like, well, firstly, my parents for like taking me to gigs and things. So I think the first time I kind of experienced jazz was going to see Hackney Colliery Band. They're, I mean, not like hardcore jazz, but really, really groovy brass. And because I was playing the trumpet, I was like, oh, I just want to do that. That's so cool. So yeah, and kind of that, and friends, going to gigs with friends, and just inspiring me to love music and just being able to talk to people about music. I've been with some friends. I'm currently studying at Cheetham School of Music, so like everyone's really into music there, which is great. So with a few friends of mine from there, in the lockdown, we've been having, we call them listening parties, where we listen to an album of choice of one of us, and we basically listen to it all at the same time, or as close as we can get, being miles and miles away, and kind of message about it and just talk about the music, which kind of just in this time where it's kind of hard to find motivation, it's really good. It kind of reminds you of how much I do love music.
Brilliant. I know, Emily, you like jazz a lot as well. Is there anything, because I imagine quite a few NCO kids haven't explored jazz very much. How did you come to find it or be interested in it, or you know, what could you recommend for people that wanted to dip their toes into that kind of jazz world?
I got introduced to jazz a long time ago, actually. I think so long ago I literally can't even remember now. My family are quite musical, so I've always been surrounded by music, opera, classical music, jazz, basically anything, hardcore rock even, just every genre. Jazz, I just like listening. I started out just by listening to like classic kind of stuff, things like Jack Teagarden, all the classic standards, those kind of things, which I really enjoy playing. I'd say they're kind of my biggest influence in my jazz playing, just because they sort of introduce you to the basics and like the start of improvisation and chords. I had a lot of fun actually on an NCO course doing an improvisation take on Oh When the Saints Go Marching In for one of my surround sound performances actually, and we did it in the foyer of one of the concert halls that we were at. I'm not sure, I can't really remember which one it was now.
I remember Bridge Hall, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, so it was just it was all sorts of instruments. We had a clarinet and a trumpet and a drummer. I think there might have been a violin as well.
Flute, yeah, there was a bass, wasn't there? It was really
quite a variety of instruments, and it was really nice because when we went into the first session of doing that, we all had sort of different experiences of jazz music, and it was sort of nice to just come together and all sort of try different things out, because some people had like no experience at all and it was sort of their first time improvising, but it was just good to like work together just to try and sort of figure it out in a way. I've also had quite a lot of experience doing jazz through the NYJC program, which is National Youth Jazz Collective, and they meet up, the one I signed up to do met up in King's Place in London once every month, and there were different standard groups that played, so sort of did different styles of music. I think I was in one of the higher groups that did sort of like alternative jazz, a lot of sort of the weirder side of jazz. Some of it I really loved. Some of it I didn't like that much because it was sort of like, what is going on? It was all those sort of weird lines and weird harmonies that just, when you listen to it, you think, how on earth does that make sense? But when you sit with a group of people and you listen to it and you analyze it and you go through it and you play it and you work it out by ear, you sort of realize how it all comes together to make this sort of weird, wonderful, wacky kind of thing that just, when you play it, it's just like a great feeling. It's just so free. It's just, that's one of the things I love most about jazz. It's just sort of, there's no real limit to what you can do with it, which I really love.
Fantastic. Great. So our answer is into your poll, Emily. 39% think olives, 25% gherkins, 21% pickled onions, 11% beetroot, and 4% mustard. So do you want to tell us the answer?
I can tell you the answer. I actually love all of those things except beetroot. I'm just not a big fan of beetroot. But the answer is gherkins. I absolutely love gherkins, and I really don't know why. I just love them.
Yeah, I'm quite keen on gherkins.
Yeah, they're just so good. I have it gets even worse because I don't know if it's a disgusting habit, because to me it's nice, so I do it. But I actually I've heard it's good for you. Okay, so before we pass any judgment, it's good for you. I actually drink the brine that comes inside the jar.
Ooh.
I know that's disgusting to some people, but I do that because I really don't know why. I just really like it.
Oh well, maybe we should try it.
Yeah, give it a go.
Never.
Give it a go. You don't know until you try.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick little screen share now to show everybody what they've been doing with the webinar selfies. So to get ready in a minute, we're going to be doing our webinar selfie at the end. But these are some that came through from last week. We've had some really lovely pictures from the webinar we had with Mirga and with Jonathan Bloxham last week. And it's so fabulous for all of us at NCO and all of you guys, I think, on our next webinar to see how much you've been enjoying what you've been doing and joining in with all the different webinars and everything that we've been part of. So please keep taking your webinar selfies. We love seeing them and we love seeing what you're up to, and hope that you can keep sending them in, and we'll share a whole nother load next week. That is Chloe. I don't know if any of you have met Chloe. She's one of our conductors who was watching our webinar last week. So she sent us in that one. And all the webinars are on YouTube. So if you missed any, you can catch up on them any time you like. Okay. So I'm just going to get rid of the screen share for now. Oh, look, we've got another poll. Kynan, which professional orchestra inspired Kynan to play the violin? The London Symphony Orchestra, the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra, or the Royal Scottish National Orchestra? And we'll find out the answer to that in just a minute. Okay, we've got a brilliant piece, question from Max Rayworth, actually asking, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Kynan, would you like to take that one?
Yeah. Let me think. I think ooh, something that, yes, actually I know what it is. Something that my second violin teacher I had said to me was that it's never too late to do slow practice. And slow practice in itself, I wouldn't even say I probably fully understand it even now. You know, you can go so deep into it in terms of understanding detail in music and stuff. But what I found even more interesting is how he said, you know, sometimes when you're in pressure situations, when you're, I don't know, going to walk in to perform or do an audition literally 15 minutes before, you might think, oh, I just want to like speed through my pieces, just have my fingers warmed up. But actually just taking the time to go through everything in a collective way, and to do it really slowly, it's so much more productive. And I think I've only just started to explore that, and it's really helped. And I think something that ties into it that one of the violin tutors at NYO likes to say a lot is to breathe, and that ties in so much with it as well. And how you know, I think the thing that comes first really isn't your instrument, but it's actually your body, and your body is your instrument. And so when you're relaxed and you're breathing, your body as an instrument is doing its best, and then that way you can whatever you play, you're gonna be kind of it's gonna reflect that. I think it's probably easier for people who do brass and wind to remember to breathe, because obviously that's how you produce sound, but it's just as important for string players as well. But I think it's often so much easier to just tense up and stop breathing. I know I certainly still do it.
Yeah. I think that's really great advice, and it reminds me of I think the third webinar we did earlier in April was a wellbeing one with our wellbeing specialists, who talked about that a lot. So if any of you haven't seen that, it's definitely worth going back to visit the wellbeing webinar to hear all about breathing and posture and the things that kind of keep you calm and centered and focused and all those important things. Okay, so most people, 50% think, Kynan, that it's the CBSO, City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, that inspired you most. Then the LSO on 36%, 9% for Liverpool Phil, and 5% for the Scottish National Orchestra. So do you want to tell us what the result is, what the answer is?
It is in fact the CBSO. I'm pretty sure the first concert I ever went to see, and it was one that I think my whole family, we all went to it. It was, I'm pretty sure it was at the CBSO Centre, and it was a performance of Harry Potter film music, I think. And I think after the performance, we were allowed to go up to the orchestra where they were all seated and kind of look at the different instruments, and, you know, the members of the orchestra were talking us through their instruments and what it does. And I was actually quite sad, because I think, well, this was kind of 2019. I realized that I hadn't been going to as many CBSO concerts as I wanted to, because obviously it was the root of my inspiration. And so 2020, I set one of my resolutions as for like going to more concerts, CBSO concerts. And I had so many that I wanted to go to, but obviously so many of them have now been cancelled. So it's a bit of a shame, but I started going to a lot more than I used to. So I was glad that I kind of rekindled that inspiration, I guess.
Brilliant, great. Oh, we've got another poll. Brilliant. One about Christie. Here we are. So Christie used to have a chicken called, okay, Stevie G, named after Steven Gerrard, who's a Liverpool footballer. Megs, named after Megan Rapinoe, a member of the winning USA Football World Cup team. Christie 2, named after Cristiano Ronaldo, captain of the Portuguese national team. Or Gaza, named after Gareth Bale, a forward in the Welsh national football team. Okay, so this is true, isn't it, Christie? You're not making this up. One of those is actually true.
It is, yes.
Yeah. I did have fun making up the other answers, but I don't know. Let's see whether people can guess what that is. Okay, lots of people, I'm being told, are asking, how long do you practice for every day? So could you give us very quickly a ballpark answer, each of you? Emily, roughly at the moment on lockdown, how much are you practicing every day?
It's sort of varying day to day. A couple of times I've been doing quite a lot of practice, like probably more than a brass player should actually do. A few times in lockdown, I've done about 4 hours of practice. But I always make sure that no matter how much practice I'm doing, I'm always making sure that I have an aim for what I do when I practice. And I always make sure that if I'm doing extended periods of practice, I always split it up into sections. Because if I practice just for 4 hours straight, I'm going to be absolutely hammered the next day. I won't be able to play. So I always split up my practice into different sections. I do an hour on technique. I have a book of studies that I'm working on at the minute, just to improve range, connecting the notes together, just basic things for an hour. And then I'll do maybe another hour on studies, or a certain aspect of my playing that I don't think is up to the standard I want it to be. Things like double tonguing, triple tonguing, bar scales, crabwise, arpeggios, things like that. And then I'll do maybe another hour on pieces, or certain aspects of the pieces that I just want to improve. I might not even play the whole piece through. I might just pick a passage that I thought the previous practice session I wasn't happy with. It could be a really low passage, it could be a really high passage, it could be quite just an average sort of passage, just long, slow notes in a piece. It's just getting it up to the standard that I want it to be.
So you're quite organised. It's not so much the timing thing, but more a kind of planning it. And
you can do half an hour's practice a day, but as long as it's structured practice and you achieve at the end of that half an hour what you want to achieve, then it's a good practice session.
Brilliant advice. Thank you, Emily. Kynan, roughly how much do you practice at the moment?
I think it's different for string players, because obviously we don't have that thing of our lungs, or, you know, kind of getting tired. What I tell myself is I always try and aim for a minimum of 4 hours, kind of an average of 5. And I kind of have a thing where I don't want to do any more than 5, because then normally the next day I have absolutely no motivation. I think because I'm going to conservatoire next year, what I'm trying to do is kind of work on things that my teacher for next year wants me to do. So I think I've been doing scales meticulously, kind of just small chunks of scales, but really focused. So probably, you know, like an hour and a half-ish, maybe an hour on some more studies. I've actually been loving these kind of like Sevchik studies, just these back to basics of yeah, that sort of stuff, and then some pieces as well. But I also always have this, I guess, mental policy where if I'm not feeling motivated to practice, or if I feel like I just don't want to practice, then I won't practice, because as Emily said, you always have to practice with an aim and a purpose. And if you don't feel like you've got that in you, then I think it's sometimes best to just take a day off and do something else and be re-inspired to go back to your instrument the next day.
So Christie, 4 and 5 hours is quite a long time for our little NCO people. I don't think that's a very sensible thing for them to be doing at the stage that stage in their lives. But when you were kind of 9, 10, 11, roughly what would you be practicing? How long would you be practicing?
9, 10, 11, I'd say probably maybe anywhere between half an hour and an hour. One thing for me that I think is really important is, I'm not sure about for other instruments. I know especially for brass is really important to play every day and make sure you're doing a little bit every day. Because I know if I take a day off, the next day my lips will feel awful, or sometimes the next few days there's like a few days recovery if I take a day off. And my current my jazz improv teacher said, he had a really nice phrase that the things that you're good at are the things that you do every day. So even if you're doing a little bit every day, so I go on cycle rides most day, so I think I'm fairly getting, I've okay at that. I've been trying to do yoga every day, trying to get better at that. Still not very flexible, but getting better. But it's just like kind of having the discipline to do it every day, and then those will be the things that you get good at. Because if you do, even if it is just like 15 minutes, half an hour a day, if you're having that kind of regularity, you're bound to improve loads.
Brilliant. That's really great advice. Thank you. So the poll is in. Most people think you had a chicken called Christie too. Do you want to give us the answer?
No, although Christie 2 is a fantastic name, it was actually Stevie G. In our household, despite being from Huddersfield, we are Liverpool supporters because my dad grew up in Liverpool. So we support Liverpool because of that. So yeah, it was Stevie G. I think my dad probably had the most input into that name, and yeah.
Great, brilliant. Oh, we got another poll for Emily for you to get voting on. This is a secret about Emily. She can rap the entire soundtrack of Hamilton. She can sing Mary Poppins Returns from start to finish. She can perform the famous tap dance sequence from Singing in the Rain, or she has seen Six, the musical, 6 times. Okay, one of those is true, or maybe more than one, I don't know, but I certainly know that one is true. Okay, we're running out of time because we've got so much to talk about, but one last quick screen share, because next week is half term, and there are various opportunities for you to get involved with things next week. And the first thing is Jess Gillam's virtual orchestra, which she's doing another one. I know many of you joined in last time. She's on one of our webinars, so you can look back at her if you didn't join that one. The Virtual Scratch Orchestra. I think she's doing Let It Be, the Beatles song this time. So you can download all the music from her website, upload that, and then you'll be part of one of these great, amazing collage concerts that she's been doing. That's all on her website. And the deadline for that is Wednesday, the 27th. So you've got the weekend and a couple more days to get that done. Then next weekend, next Friday, we've got another webinar, but it's an earlier time of 4 p.m. and I'll explain why in a minute. And next week, we're going to be joined, amazingly, by 2 members of Parliament, 2 politicians who are actually musicians. They're called Thangam Debonair and Emily Benn, and they have a string quartet called Statutory Instruments, and that's them in the Houses of Parliament playing their string quartet. So they're going to be joining us for a bit of a chat next week about, when you're a musician and you don't want to be a musician professionally, what music can you do? What can you do with music in your life? So she's an amazing politician, but she's also very much a musician as well at her core. So it's going to be really exciting to see both of them. And then at 5 o'clock next Friday, you guys are going to introduce us to something that we can all get involved with, which is something that NYO is launching at the moment, which is called the Our Musical Planet. Emily, do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, so we're all going out on Friday evening, to play an excerpt from Jupiter from the Planets by Holst. And we really want you to get involved, because it's obviously the times we're in it at the minute are really difficult, and doing this thing of going out on your doorstep, like just to play to your community, is a really good fun thing to do. I've been doing it actually with my family pretty much every Thursday night throughout lockdown. Just been going out and doing a little performance for my street, and they all come down to watch because they just love it, because obviously we're all feeling a little bit down, we can't go out, we can't see our friends. So it's just this really nice way of just sort of supporting the NHS, like the frontline workers, our community. It's just a really nice thing to do. So it'd be really great for you guys to get involved, just to help support that.
Brilliant. So there's a little video on their website which you can look at, and all the parts are there to be downloaded. So that's next Friday, which is why we're having our webinar a tiny bit early, so that we can get all that done, the lovely webinar with our politicians, and then we can all go out onto our doorsteps and play Jupiter from the Planets to join it all up. So we've got a result for our poll, Emily. So most people think that you can do the tap dance from Singing in the Rain, but quite a lot, only 2% less, think you can rap the whole soundtrack of Hamilton. Oh, I know, and 28% think you've seen the musical 6 times. So which is true?
Okay, so I used to do tap dancing. However, I can sadly not do sing. Although I love that movie, I can't do the tap sequence from Singing in the Rain. I can, however, rap the whole of the Hamilton musical from start to finish. I went to see it in year 10, so a couple of years ago in September, and I absolutely loved it. And I listened to the soundtrack so many times before that I think I just memorized every single word to pretty much every single song. So the entire way through the musical, I was just singing. I was like sort of in the front rows and something, and my family was sitting next to me. They had to keep nudging me to tell me to shut up because I was getting so into it. I just loved it.
Brilliant. Okay, that's fantastic. So that's the result of our last poll. Now we're going to do our selfie. So could you get your instruments ready? Or how we're going to do our selfies? They've got them all ready to go. So any of you guys out there that want to get I'm going to get my actual selfie thing going on here. So shall I count us down, and then you can do something fun and silly with your instrument, and we'll get the selfie. Okay? Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Brilliant. I think we got it. Thank you so much. So all that leaves me to say really is just a huge thank you to you all, because you are a huge inspiration to me and to the whole of NCO and to all our children, I know. And thank you for working so hard and being just so wonderful, and also sharing so well today your thoughts and your advice and your wisdom and your kindness and all that stuff. So thank you so much. We're going to say goodbye now and look forward to seeing all the NCO kids next week at 4 o'clock, not 4:30. And then you'll be joining these guys on the doorsteps at 5 o'clock next week, and they'll all be playing. And then I imagine some of you will be posting stuff on social media, so we can share that with all our kids, so we can see you guys in action playing next week as well. So lots of love to you all, and see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.